Welcome to SFL, Innovative Logistics Experts.
So, KellyLynn McLaughlin is a professional over the road commercial motor vehicle driver and driver ambassador for the Women in Trucking Association, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to encourage employment for women in the trucking industry, promote their achievements, and minimize the obstacles they may face. I'm so pleased to have you on this Women in Logistics series and giving me the opportunity to highlight your inspiring story. So, thank you.
Thank you for having me. This is an honor, and I like I've said before, I really enjoy meeting people that from all different branches of the industry and from other countries as well, because it's good for me to know how the trucking world works in other countries as well as here too.
Likewise, Kelly, likewise. So, our first question is, how did you come about becoming a commercial motor vehicle driver? What's your story?
Yeah. Well, I didn't plan on doing this. So I was involved with my kids and a marching band in the United States. We had so much equipment to haul that I was volunteering to coordinate their logistics. And I got a free ride in a tractor, which is a semi truck. And I just fell in love. And when I was younger, I used to be a pilot, and I felt like moving down the road, I was up high and you're just going fast, and I felt like I was flying again. And I said to the gentleman volunteer that was driving the tractor that I wished that I could do that. And I'm a pretty adventurous person. And he just looked at me, he's like, you could do it. He's permit, you go to school, you learn how to drive, and then you drive. And for some reason, I was one of those people that thought that you had to be a man to do that job. And I was very disappointed in myself for thinking that, because that is not my typical approach. But so I went to bed and I thought about it, and I thought, yeah, that is something that when I'm a grandmother and I'm talking to my grandchildren, that I don't want to leave any regrets in life, right? And if would I regret not trying to see if I could really do that? So that's what I did. And I found out that I really loved it. I must have diesel in my veins somewhere along there. And I actually enjoy it, I think, more than flying an airplane, which is so, that was a long time ago that I did that. But I really enjoy it. And I love the problem solving that comes with it. I love the diversity that I get to meet and interact with. And I don't plan on quitting anytime soon. So I'm here.
Excellent, excellent. That's amazing to hear, Kelly-Lynn. So, it's not very often that you see women truck drivers in my part of the world, right? So it is it. So we truly are, of your job description. So, what would you say for yourself is the most satisfying aspect of being? Because it is an unconventional job. So, what is the most satisfying aspect of it?
Well, I do have to admit that I enjoy being unique. I enjoy being the person that
Absolutely.
is the lady that's out there that's breaking these barriers. And I am just one of many. But that is a good feeling, like, yes, I'm here and I can do this job really well too. And but the other part that I get that is just part of this job is seeing the behind the scenes, what happens in our country and how the infrastructure works. And so I get to go places that normal citizens don't get to go. And I've really learned a lot about our country, its infrastructure, freight movement, recycling, all of this stuff that happened behind the scenes that I never really thought about. I'm part of that process now, and that's just fascinating to me. And then the extra bonus is just the pretty scenery. I always enjoyed traveling, and I just that sometimes I wish I could just stop and take a picture, because it is just so pretty.
Yeah, I can imagine. I must definitely travel to the United States. I've never been, so I'd like to visit one day and see for myself. Yeah. So, uh, professional drivers have been on the front line of the pandemic, risking their health to keep the economy moving.
Yes.
So can you elaborate on your experience of steering through those difficult
Right.
times?
Right. Because it was almost exactly a year ago this month that our country started shutting down, even though we knew something we were going to have to do that sooner. So I was scared. That was my first experience, was that I was scared and I was afraid that I would just get hit with this invisible bullet, if you call it that. And I thought, I'm just going to drive and I'm going to make as much money as I can before I get sick. And I really thought that, my life was at risk. And I've never lived in a war zone, but driving and continuing to work when people were not doing um, safety measures in terms of wearing a mask and staying home and that kind of thing, and I was still out driving the country. I felt like I was at risk, and that it was scary every moment. And then the country shut down and I felt very, very lonely, and this job has always been a very social job for me, to be a professional driver. And everybody was at home and the streets were empty, the highways were empty. Animals and birds came out on the highways, and I saw more wildlife than I had ever seen while I was driving, because the people were gone. And I could drive miles, half an hour without seeing another vehicle. And then it would be somebody like me, another truck, and I would be waving at them. And then, and it was hard to get personal protection equipment, masks, sanitizers, all of that. And we were still needing to do our jobs. Then I figured out that I was able to stay healthy. My company did a great job getting personal protection equipment to us. And I kept going month after month after month. And you know, I realized how essential the trucking industry is. And I hadn't really, I mean, I knew that, but it didn't really sink into with me until we really were the only ones out on the roads. And there was a little bit more driver love during that time. And I really hope that it stays, that people remember who are the people that keep our countries running. And probably it's the same here as it is in your country, that it's the people that are transporting your goods, taking care of you medically, keeping your public utilities up and running, sanitation, water, electricity, and then your grocers. And you cannot survive in a community without those things. And so I hope that the driver love stays, but I don't know when, if and when we get back to normal, if it'll stay that way. But now we at least have access to personal protection equipment. I didn't know that there was so much plexiglass and materials to build barriers out of in our country. And it seems like there is a barrier between me and my customers, or me and the people that I interact with everywhere. And that's a little off-putting. That's one of the reasons why I think it's become so lonely. But hopefully that will change and we'll get to interact with humans again.
No,
Um,
definitely, definitely. It's around the corner. Good times are coming. And Kelly Lynn, it's
yeah,
funny because um, I can relate to what you're saying. It has
yeah,
been incredibly lonely. It's been different. It's been scary. We felt all those emotions too. Um,
yeah.
and I think it's also a reset, a wake up call. And then we realize we've taken for granted
Yeah.
things that mattered. So, you know what? It's the same thing over and
Yeah.
over. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, another interesting question I thought of touching was that trucking, for the large part, is a male-dominated industry, right? You often read about the obstacles that the women workforce encounter. Um,
Yeah.
have the government or the industry taken any actions to make the work experience for women more conducive, or is that a process we're working
Well,
towards?
I don't think the government really has done much to make the professional driver part of the trucking industry more accessible to women. although there is some legislation that's up for our government to review right now that will build a women in trucking advisory council to study and see what kind of processes are out there and what needs to be ingrained into our training and recruiting industry uh, activities, I guess you could say, that would promote and make it more accessible to women and maybe a little bit more of a level playing field. Although I have to say that the pay for women and men is the same in the professional driving um, stratosphere because I get paid the same as a male. The job is the same, but I I encountered a lot of um, uh, pushback from family and friends when I decided to go into this industry. So it's not exactly, it's not an acceptable job for women. And I think there's a lot of stereotypes out there that are not actually accurate, which is what I try and share. What does my day look like? And how safe am I really? And how hard is this job? And what kind of and people are probably best suited to be a driver? So and then the other part is the carriers in the industry. And are they making changes to make this a more palatable and comfortable place for women to come in and be drivers? And not all training environments are the same in the United States. It really varies from carrier to carrier. I was very fortunate that I chose the carrier that I did. I didn't even know to ask about training environment, but when you're talking about mixed gender and training and having to work over the road, that matters. And your work environment needs to be safe, it needs to be harassment free, and it needs to be conducive to learning too, right? So you need to be well rested, you need to have a trained, just because you can drive a tractor and doesn't mean that you can teach someone how to drive a tractor. So trainers need to be trained in learning styles and teaching styles. So there's a lot left that could be improved. But really, the gentlemen that are in this industry that are on the driving side really have been very supportive and encouraging for me. Where I've felt a lack is at the beginning was finding other women that were doing what I was doing and connecting with them and getting advice from them that I needed as a lady in this industry.
Yeah, definitely. Uh, so you said you belong to a non you do belong to a women in trucking association. How important is it for women to belong to a community and support one another? Because
Well,
that
I can speak for me personally, it was huge. I needed to find other women. I needed to find my tribe. I needed to be able to interact with them, learn from them, and just feel like I was part of a larger group. And I would go to trucking shows, and I would visit every booth. I would just make my rounds and I would hit everybody, and I was just trying to find out what was going on in the industry, educate myself and find somewhere that I could fit. And I ran across Women in Trucking Association multiple times, and they were not a gossip group. They were really about making a change in the industry, working together, supporting women in the industry. There were men in the association as well that were supporting this whole movement, because change isn't going to happen without the gentlemen working alongside you to make those changes in a male dominated society. I mean, it seems very pragmatic, right? And so they weren't a gossipy group. They were about changing, but also developing yourself professionally and networking and connecting you with other women. And they just had their game on. They were always at the leadership table and having hard discussions, and they did it in a positive and a professional way. And I think that's how change happens. It's you kind of have to kill people with kindness, and the more professional you are and justify your position, that the more readily I think you can be heard and then change happen. So it's been very important for me. And now I'm lucky enough to work for Women in Trucking Association as their driver ambassador. And I get paid to go around and talk about being a woman in this industry and encouraging other women to consider it as well. And then I also work for Schneider, which is one of the largest carriers in the United States. And I drive over the road for them. I'm out for anywhere from 5 to, maybe 20 days a month. And
Wow.
I also train for them. So I take their new hires that also already have their CDL license, and I take them out for a week at a time over the road and train them about what life is like, customer service, all of the little things that you have to be able to do to successfully move and around in the country and manage your time and your safety and to be successful. So I really enjoy it. I'm very passionate about this
I know, I
industry.
can see that.
Yeah,
No, it's definitely it helps, I think, immensely to be a part of women with this common goals, right? Um, Definitely. So you interact with young trainees who aspire to be in the industry. What advice do you give them? What are the key
the
advices you give them?
uh, okay, let me just say the majority of the new hired, the trainees that I work with are men because there are
Okay.
so few women. Um, but when I am speaking directly to women, the first thing I tell them is the same thing that volunteer dad driver told me was that you can do this. And sometimes you need to hear somebody say that yes, you can do this. And yes, I was one of those people that thought I couldn't, but I really can. And then the other thing I want to tell them is self doubt is our biggest critic, and it's usually our biggest obstacle. So just look straight ahead at where you want to go and don't look at what other people are doing or what they're saying, because that's when the self doubt starts to creep in. So just look straight ahead, decide where you want to go, and then how are you going to get there? What do you need in your tool belt to get there? And it may be networking with other women. It may be a professional license, and it may be reading journal articles about the industry to better educate yourself about all the different factors that affect the job that you want. And then once you get there, where do you want to go from there? Don't just stay right there. Think about what is the next step? What do you want to learn? What's on your bucket list? And keep it constantly exciting and challenging, and put some growth into it.
And it's funny you say this because I think this everyone can learn from what you just said, even myself. Key takeaways for myself. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Kelly, that's very interesting. Thank you for that advice. What do you see with the pandemic still not entirely over? Uh, have you adapted to it? What do you see for the trucking industry in the future, in the near future?
I think because e-commerce has really started to explode here, that trucking's not going away. The loads are just going to become more frequent and more in demand. And what we really need to do is focus on keeping the drivers that we have that are already trained and keeping them happy in the industry. Don't give them a reason to leave. And then on the flip side of that, we have a driver shortage. I don't know what it's like in India, but we have a driver shortage. So we need to make this career choice palatable to newer and younger people in the industry, male and female, and train them and just, like put it back in the conversation, because it really, driving a truck has not been in the conversation for so long. And it's something that you can do at different stages in your life, and it can also lead to other jobs within the industry, whether it be in training or safety or IT or different things. So, and you can always come back to it as long as you have that commercial motor vehicle license in your pocket. So Yeah.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can continue to get vaccinated and continue to wear our masks and be safe. That is a challenge. Not everybody wants to do
Yeah, it is. It is. Hopefully things work out for the better, which I will. I am being very positive about it.
that.
I can see an end, soon. I think what you have in your mind kind of uh, transcends,
Yeah.
transpires. Yeah. So thank you very much, Kelly Lynn, for speaking with me. It's been truly a pleasure. I really enjoyed speaking with you today.
Thank you for watching. To stay ahead of the game and for more content like this, don't forget to hit that bell icon and click to subscribe to our channel. SFL Software Logic is dedicated to supporting and elevating logistics businesses through technology. Powered by CargoWise One, our ecosystem comprises of consultancy, implementations, and support. Our mission at SFL, we believe in constantly challenging how things are done to create opportunities for us and our partners and ultimately collaborate with us to stay ahead of the game. SFL Innovative Logistics Experts.